Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. It's time now for the financial news. South Sudan has officially launched its first oil licensing auction with 5 blocks on offer. The Ministry of Petroleum says that the oil licensing round aims to attract interest from a diverse group of foreign investors. The available blocks range between 4,000 and 25,000 square kilometers. South Sudan gains almost all of its revenue from oil. It's been boosting output in a bid to reach pre-war production levels of 350,000 to 400,000 barrels per day. Well, high inflation driven by soaring food prices has pushed 7 million Nigerians into poverty. This is according to the World Bank. In a new report, the lender commended Nigeria for supporting its economy through the impact of the pandemic. However, the World Bank is calling for urgent measures to break inflation and protect livelihoods. Nigeria's year-on-year inflation rose to a 4-year high of nearly 18.2% in March. Food prices have been on the rise and accounted for over 60% of the total increase in inflation. The World Poverty Clock, which uses UN, IMF, and World Bank data to monitor progress against poverty, reports that Nigeria has 41% of its population, or nearly 87 million people, in extreme poverty living on less than $2 a day. Ratings agency Fitch has downgraded Ghana's economic outlook from stable to negative, and let's say that it reflects the significant deterioration in public financing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. They also attribute the downgrade to the government's delay in fiscal consolidation rollout. In addition, observers say the lack of a clear majority in parliament is considered a factor in increased risk of fiscal slippages. This rating has reduced Ghana's ability to absorb further economic shocks for an extended period. South Africa's largest beer producer, South African Breweries, has put its capital spending back on the table for the next financial year. Last year, SAB canceled its capital investment plans worth over $350 million following the government's bans on alcohol, which was among measures the country had imposed to curb the spread of COVID-19. Reporting from Johannesburg, here is Sumitra Naidu.
It was a massive blow to the economy when SAB canned its capital expenditure program. The beer maker found itself losing billions in dollars in sales following the liquor bans. SAB has reconsidered its position and is now going ahead with its investment plans.
The plan is to continue to service the demand in the market, right? The impact is now being felt on our balance sheets. We obviously needed to borrow to fund the times when we weren't earning any revenue. This investment is part of that recovery plan. We are just going to need to trade our way out of this position, and obviously, provided we continue to trade, we see a way forward out of the financial position we found ourselves in.
SAB will spend $142 million in the 2022 financial year on upgrading existing facilities, new equipment, and product innovation. Part of the spend will also go towards empowering small to medium enterprises.
What this investment will do is it will create jobs for the economy. Both the investment itself will create jobs as we implement the investments across our business. But more importantly, in the long term, it will create jobs through our value chain. We source more than 95% of all of our inputs locally.
When SAB Miller merged with Anheuser-Busch InBev back in 2016, one of the conditions was to ensure capital investments and retaining jobs. Authorities also required AB InBev to invest $65 million over 5 years. All these conditions were challenged in court after the announcement of the third ban on alcohol trading.
I think we've all learned a lot through the pandemic, both ourselves as industry and government. But there's no doubt, through the structures that government has put in place, we have seen engagement with government through those structures. And obviously, we're a large organization, so we constantly engaging with the different departments within government, and we have seen an improvement with regard to discussions as to how we should be dealing with the pandemic.
SAB currently has the capacity to brew 3.1 million litres of beer annually. This figure will increase substantially once upgrades and expansions are complete at operating facilities. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, staying in the country, the South African Revenue Service has destroyed thousands of boxes of illicit cigarettes worth around $1.2 million. The cigarettes were either imported or manufactured in the country illegally in contravention of customs and excise legislation. As CGTN's Ulysses Jamela now reports, authorities have intensified efforts to rid the country of illicit cigarette trade.
The South African Revenue Service's customs officials have scored several victories in the fight against the trade in illicit cigarettes. Earlier this month, customs officials at Bay Bridge border post began to destroy previously seized illicit cigarettes with a total value of about 2.1 million US dollars.
SARS has destroyed cigarettes from a number of seizures carried out across the country as a result of non-compliance detected, including, in particular, smuggling, ghost exports, counterfeit cigarettes. This is in line with our living mantra, and I quote, "Make it harder and costly for those who are not complying without following our relevant laws."
The seizure and destruction of illicit cigarettes is part of government's efforts to generally deal with illicit trade.
Illegal imports and illicit trade activities in cigarette and tobacco also affect the local industry production, marketing chains, and legal sources of employment, as well as hindering the government efforts to attain public health objectives. A 2015 study by World Health Organization, WHO, estimated that 1 in 10 cigarettes consumed in the world come from illicit trade.
According to SARS, illicit imports reduce the revenue the country collects, revenue which is needed for the government to provide basic services.
It destroys local industry, leading to factory closure, job losses, and erosion of the legitimate tax base. Some of these goods present a public health hazard, putting strain on the healthcare system. It also contributes to higher levels of criminality.
SARS Customs has now established the National Rapid Response Team to tackle what it considers major areas of risk. Ulysses Jamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Let's head over to Nigeria now, where the government's decision that all social media platforms be registered has drawn widespread criticism. This follows the suspension of Twitter's operations there. But the Nigerian Information Minister has been defending the move. Here's more on that story.
On the 5th of June, the Nigerian government indefinitely suspended the operations of Twitter in the country. The state said the social media platform poses a threat to national security. Just days earlier, Twitter removed a post by Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari that threatened secessionist groups in the country's southeast.
We have simply suspended indefinitely the operations of Twitter in Nigeria. And we did that because we've seen that Twitter has lent itself as a platform of choice for separatist agitators who are agitating for the dismantling and disintegration of Nigeria.
Following the suspension, the government announced that social media platforms must register in the country and pay taxes. Nigerian Information Minister Lai Mohammed says the new regulation is also aimed at curbing the spread of fake news and not a knee-jerk reaction.
In 2018, we started an advocacy program through which we visited every media house in Nigeria, warning them about the dangers of fake news. And that especially in a country like Nigeria, where we have plural values, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Hausas, we have Igbos. We have Yorubas, we have Shakiris. We have people of different values. Now, what fake news does is that it exploits this fragile relationship, and it will set one part of the country against the other. But it got to a state that realized that the issue of advocacy would not work. We must regulate the social media.
There has been an outcry about the negative financial implications of suspending Twitter in Nigeria. The country is set to lose up to $6 million daily.
Today is the age of technology. Technologically driven conversation, businesses are happening. You don't need to be in one office for you to be able to advance whatever you want to do. So it is true that businesses have been affected. It is true that Nigerians have lost money. What they are trying to do is not in the interest of Nigerians. They are not trying to make any money. What they are trying to do is to gag free speech and to control the narrative.
So those who are criticizing us for trying to regulate the social media, so understand that there's a difference between regulating social media and free speech. All we are talking about, the quality, the content of the media must be healthy, not just for government, even for the people.
Nigeria, though Africa's largest economy, is facing its own internal challenges. For over a decade, the country has been grappling with an Islamist insurgency in the north, together with frequent inter-ethnic conflicts. Recently, kidnappings for ransom have been on the rise in the northwestern regions. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
Senegal has inaugurated its first national data center in the city of Diamniadio, which is 40 kilometers from the capital, Dakar. The project was constructed with support from Chinese telecoms company Huawei. The West African nation plans to move all government data from foreign service to the national data center. The center will also serve the private sector, allowing the country's growing tech startups to access cheaper infrastructure. According to Senegal's State Informatics Agency, the country is aiming to become a tech hub to capture part of the African digital market. Senegalese President Macky Sall, while launching the project, hailed it as one that would reduce the digital divide and make the life of its citizens easier.
The Diamniadio Data Center is another achievement of Sino-Senegalese cooperation. Mr. Ambassador of China, kindly convey to my friend, President Xi Jinping, my sincere thanks for his constant availability and support. Since I was elected head of this country, China has never postponed any request that I made. All the requests, all the projects that I have submitted to China have been taken care of and funded. So be my messenger and say a big thank you to President Xi Jinping. And I also take this opportunity to say a happy birthday to the Chinese Communist Party, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary.
It's time for a break. When we come back, your sport news including